Okay, I think we'll make a start. Morning, everybody. Welcome, councillors, officers, and members of the public to the meeting of the Strategy and Resources Committee. Reminder: I've just switched mine off. Mobile phones, do it silent, please. There are members of the press attending this meeting virtually. Can I please ask those attending virtually to switch off your microphone to avoid any disruption during the meeting. The meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the council's YouTube channel. Invite the councillors to ensure that those attending virtually can hear the proceedings and for the recording to capture the entire meeting. Please ensure that you project your voice and speak clearly. Please remember it's a formal meeting. Don't refer to councillors or officers by their first names, which I sometimes do. There's no fire alarm plan, therefore upon hearing a fire alarm, please leave the building via your nearest marked fire exit and assemble at the top of the top car park. Please be aware the context displayed on your iPad or laptop may be seen by others, so shut down screens which are displaying confidential information during the public part of meetings. Thank you. We'll move on to the agenda. First of all, apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, we received apologies from councillors Hunt and Bell, Chair.
Any other apologies?
Councillor Crabb's just running late. He is on his way.
Any other apologies? Can we accept those minutes, those apologies? Yeah, thank you. Minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of October 2025. Any on those minutes, any comments? Anybody like to propose on minutes? Please take those minutes a true record. Thank you. All those in favour of accepting those, thank you. Item 3, there's no items to be brought forward. Item 4, declarations of interest.
Yes, sorry not to let you know earlier, but I just noticed this morning on item 7, the company that I work for is involved in one of the projects that are mentioned on there, but it's a report to note, and just quickly taking some advice from Simon Fuller, the qualities that I can say in the room.
And Chair, as spouse of said councillor, I would also like to disclose whatever the correct term is.
It would be a non-registerable interest.
Indeed, in the interest of transparency. Thank you.
Any other declarations of interest? Everything will be part A, so we're on to part A for an update on local government reorganisation by the Chief Exec.
Thanks, Chair. And just before going into local government reorganisation proper, just a reminder to members, we've got a workshop tomorrow night, which is not going to be talking about models of local government or anything, but it's about preparing the council for the local government reorganisation process. So we have the leader of Westmoreland and Furness, which is one of the 2 new Cumbria authorities coming to the meeting virtually, to talk about how they transitioned from district council to unitary council, and the culture and the steps that they had to introduce. So if you can, please urge councillors to attend that, because I think it's important to start getting the council ready for that transitional phase. And at the moment, I think we've got 20 councillors roughly signed up. We are going to, at the moment, it's down as a hybrid meeting, but to try and encourage attendance, we'll change it to a virtual meeting, just to ensure more people can attend. But if you can encourage people to attend, that'd be great. And then in terms of local government reorganisation, following the last full council meeting, which expressed support for the 451 and also expressed support for exploring the Northern Devon options, the 451 the proposal is still being developed, and we are on course to produce that and publish it in advance of the full council meeting. So we're looking probably at publication around the 17th of November, and trying to organise it so that all of the councils engaged in that process are publishing the document at the same time. What's happened just very recently, last week or the back end of last week, we saw two announcements. Firstly from Torbay, who were previously working and have collaborated on the 451 project and proposal. They've now announced that they will be putting forward their own proposal, which consists of an expanded Plymouth, an expanded Exeter, Torbay on its current boundaries, and then what they phrase, I think, a rural and coastal authority, which is basically the rest of Devon dumped into one. Exeter and Plymouth then followed it up with another announcement shortly afterwards, which made clear that the three authorities were working together, but didn't make clear the geography of the Exeter and Plymouth proposal. What the Exeter and Plymouth proposal talked about was an expanded Plymouth and an expanded Exeter, but remained silent on what they see as the Torbay proposal. There's lots of speculation about what that geography might look like, which we won't go into today. But the point is, there was a difference in proposal being put forward or being announced. So it remains to be seen what comes forward as part of the Exeter and Plymouth proposal. We have been, in terms of the Northern Devon option, we have been trying to influence other authorities that are putting forward proposals to ensure or try to ensure that the principles around Northern Devon and the community of North Devon and the feel of Northern Devon is reflected in those proposals. It remains to be seen how that will come through. But I think looking at the announcement from Exeter and Plymouth last week, it's looking more like that their proposal will reflect Torbay rather than Northern Devon, but we'll have to see when that comes out. We've got calls this week to progress the 451 proposal. I'm briefing the MP at 11, so I'll be leaving this meeting shortly. And we've got other calls later on in the week as well to progress the proposal. I think that's an update, Chair.
Okay, any questions, any comments?
You are, Richard, didn't you? Comments. And just to say, what you said, and Peter Lever, when we met Phil Barlick, he was quite obvious in his assumptions about some of the rest of South Devon in terms of Torbay. You know, mentioning that you fall over twice and so I think it, you know, I mean, I've searched to read what Exeter are really saying, and I've read their scrutiny documents. I think they go tonight. Is it tonight their scrutiny? But there's no mention of the actual proposal they're going to. So the jury's still out on that, and I think my impression from meeting at Exeter was that they would have supported a north-south divide after Exeter and Plymouth. So we'll have to wait and see on that. So it does look like we're not going to get anything like a consensus by the end of November. So most important thing, as you say, Chair, is to influence other people about the distinctiveness of North Devon. But I think my view hasn't changed. I think 145 will be very difficult to sell now without Torbay.
And that the other point I should have mentioned, Chair, apologies, to reflect that or to help us sell that local distinctiveness of North Devon, we have now got the final draft of the Northern Devon Place story, which will be going to full council at the same time as the LGR proposals for final adoption. But although that hasn't been formally adopted yet, those drafts have been sent out to other parties just to ensure that they're getting that information. And that document should act as, it should properly reflect those communities and properly reflect the challenges and the opportunities that we have in North Devon.
I think that's an important point. I think the place story will become increasingly important to us in North Devon, because it does look as though we haven't got the support for a northern option, as you know. Councillor Prowse, and it's a shame that we did try and get other council leaders to offer some financial support, some political support, but none was forthcoming. And the alternative would have been to be out on our own, which would not have been good because the government's one of the things the government wants to do. What they've said all along is they want unity, and any model that comes forward that doesn't have backing of other councils, we can see the light of day. I don't think. So at least we've got some unity in the 145. Yeah, it's a shame Torbay have gone on their own, but I think that was probably, they always said that's a big thing. I mean, it was good that they contributed financially to the 451 model. And then, some might say that was a complete waste of money on their residents' behalf. I'm sure they will say that, some of them, but at least that it cut down the financial aspect. So it's all coming to a conclusion now, and we'll look to see what happens late November, the 26th for us and other councils as well. But yeah, you're right. We need to keep on pushing the northern aspect, whatever unitary comes in. I'm sure that will be the case. And I did say before, I mean, I was surprised when I saw the figures for the 451, and they're not set in stone, these figures, but of say 90 odd councillors, there would only be 20 from Exeter and there would be 18 from North Devon. North Devon, not Northern Devon, Norwich as well. It's not as though we would be, if 451 came about, there would be some sued by Exeter by any means. So that's worth thinking of.
So only question is 145 now accepting the expansion of Plymouth?
Well,
Because Cambridge is.
there's two aspects of that, Councillor Price.
Oh, just, which is
Yeah.
the option we're supporting. I'm completely puzzled.
There's what we're calling the 451 and then the 451 plus. And there might even be a 451 plus as well. Well, Ken might want to say a little bit more about that, but yeah, that's no. There's
What are we supporting?
that will come up at the full council. But for those who don't know, the 451 plus is the 451, but including a few more around Plymouth going into South Hams. But that'll be the report.
So what government have made clear is that individual councils can only put their name to one option. They can't sort of, pick and choose or anything like that. And so, but they have also said that the proposals that can go in can have different options within it. And so what the group of districts are considering and proposing will be two options within the overall proposal. One is the 451, which is Plymouth on existing boundaries, etc. The other one will be 451 plus with slightly expanded boundaries for Plymouth, which will be the parishes around, the nibbling away or the add-in to the urban centre, if you like, of Plymouth. Not the full 13 parishes that Plymouth have been talking about.
Councillor Prowse, you want to come back on that?
No, I just watch with interest. I just think that the logic of a greater Exeter, a greater Plymouth, and an enlarged Torbay just makes sense. And so therefore, what we've been arguing for in the beginning looks like that sort of model, but it's too late to actually put a bid together with the work behind it, I must say. But I can see what comes. I mean, the interesting thing too in Surrey is that public opinion is completely ignored when it comes to the final decision. That's for sure. It's up in the air. We just don't know. Can't read it, can you? Can't read it at all.
Just in relation to the Surrey decision, government has been at real pains to point out, both in the decision letter itself and also subsequent in other conversations, that Surrey shouldn't be seen as the blueprint for the way forward. Surrey, they're putting forward as a particular case because of the financial circumstances there and the level of debt that a number of the councils had run up. And so the decision was accompanied by financial support for Woking, I think it was, wasn't it? Of £500 million with a promise of further support to come to clear debt. But they're saying that the model chosen shouldn't be seen as a precedent for what comes forward. And I think they said both models that they had, which were a 2-unitary and a 3-unitary, I think it was, met the government criteria, but because of the level of debt that was in existence in Surrey, they opted for the one that they've opted for. But they've made that point in subsequent conversations with us and with other authorities as well, that it's not a precedent. But you're right, we'll see what happens.
All I can say is some of us will be glad when November 27th comes.
Yeah.
Been a long week. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll move on. Item 7, performance reports, Q2.
I'm going to wait for that, if that's okay, Chair.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. And Ms. Wheeler is here also, so we just wanted to run through that. So, morning members, this is our Q2 update in relation to performance. So it reflects the delivery of your corporate plan and all of those programmes that are sitting underneath those. We've had some lovely feedback from the recent Corporate Peer Challenge, and I'm just going to read out a quote. It says we should proactively and regularly celebrate our successes and be proud of what the council has delivered for the residents of North Devon. So I thought with that in mind, I'd just run through some of those bullet points and some of those highlights from our programmes that I think may be of interest to you. So starting with housing and community safety, we continue to work with North Devon Homes to work up a model to hold our social housing. They've been exceptionally helpful, and we're also in conversations with Teambridge as well. Speak up for Councillor Lever a little bit. We have been working really hard with Homes England on their investment programme, and last week we were awarded £1.2 million as part of their programme for the Future High Streets programme, which is wonderful. And we will then start to look at our Healthy Homes project at the start of April next year to put those properties into that business model as well. Business continuity, we finalised staff training, and that's going to take place later in the year. We continue to work with our voluntary service, talking about community resilience in the effect of major incidents and how they can make sure they're ready for floods, power outages, etc. Referencing Healthy Homes again in Ilfracombe, we've got an architect on the board to take us through the stages 4 to 7. Touching now on regeneration and economic growth, 36 Belport Street is on programme, and the connectivity between 36 and 37 is the focus of activity and development. Future High Street Fund Scheme, members are going to be brought up to date with that, with a separate report. The groundworks for the flood defence and residential development at Seven Brethren is underway. Planning approval has been secured for the wayfinding plinths to be installed throughout Barnstaple as part of the Cultural Development Fund. Our partnership with the Cultural Development Fund project with Bridge Chambers is on programme for completion in spring. We've got a number of CDF events which are referenced in Appendix A, which you can refer to. Ground investigation and groundwater monitoring has taken place at Fremington Quay to inform the design and the repairs of the retaining wall, and planning application has been submitted for Oxford Grove car park for the retaining wall. In relation to the customer focus programme, a new intranet has gone live and the content continues to be added, and that's now accessible to members as well, which we didn't have before. We're going to be focusing on animal licensing with our new licensing software. We've got a new solution for our virtual desktop infrastructure. Rollout of our laptops is on target for October, and we've secured £50,000 worth of digital planning improvement funds to publish data. Environmental enhancement, the master planning is underway for solar, PV and EV at Brinsworthy, and we've got a consultant appointed. The design for the air source heat pumps at the Landmark funded through Salex is completed, and the consultant is now developing plans for Brinsworthy. And the contractor has been appointed to install PV at the crematorium. We've also got the air quality strategy on today's agenda, and Mr. Hale will be here to present that report later on. And a recycling rates toolkit and communications plan have been developed with the member working group. And finally, organisational development. The annual staff wellbeing survey will go live this month, and also the dignity at work policy has been updated. And picking up on a point which two of the members raised in the last strategy and resources committee, they were really keen to see the level of funding that have been drawn down and to have it explicit. So on page 24, I think it was Councillor Lever that raised this. We've introduced now a table setting out all the external funding that we've got. So you'll see from that we've drawn down £20,326,000 to help deliver those projects and programmes. So I think it was a really valid point to put that in, because it does demonstrate, and that doesn't include the 1.2 that was referenced from the Homes England coming forward. So that's just a whistle-stop tour of the delivery of your corporate plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Any questions? Councillor Martinez? Councillor Williams?
In terms of, I mean, it's great. I mean, it's really impressive as usual. In terms of celebrating its successes, what further? Are there any thoughts about what further we might do?
I mean, for each programme, we've got a communications officer who sits within those programmes, and you will have seen those regular newsletters come out. But I think maybe it's extending that more to our partners as well, our external partners and our strategic partners. And there's some recommendations that will come out with the report. So an internal team will think about how we do that. But if you members have got any suggestions of what you think we could do better, we welcome those. And what we've got Helen Owen on the call with us today, virtually, who heads up our communications team. So happy to feed anything through to Ken or John, and we'll pick those up. Would be really helpful.
Just following that up, it's not just about celebrating our success. It's also about, and this came through from the partnership meeting that the team had. It's also about making sure that the profile of North Devon and the work that's underway in North Devon, both within the council and in partnerships, is highlighted more strongly on a regional basis. It's this sort of, traditional hiding our light under a bushel in North Devon, which we need to break out from. And it came through as part of conversations that Sarah Jane had with MHCLG on a recent call, where the sort of lack of success, if you can put it that way, in Devon Town securing funding through the Pride in Places funding recently was highlighted, and the question was asked, what can we do about it? And the response was shout more about it, in the same way that Cornwall are shouting more about it. So we have to work more strongly at getting that message across, at making sure that the challenges in North Devon are clearer, and making sure that the activity that's taking place in North Devon is highlighted as well. And the peer review team report, when it comes through, will be published properly in January, but we'll be bringing it to members with an action plan. So as Nina said, those issues will be addressed as part of that action plan, and but any suggestions from members as part of that will be very welcome, and we'll work with members in drawing that up.
Councillor shall I come back?
Yeah, but not about that point. That's fine. I mean, I've got a couple of minor queries about the numbers that you may not be able to answer off the top of your head. That's fine. On page 29, it's got some numbers about the number of households in temporary accommodation.
Yeah.
And the split between those in leased or B&B accommodation and those in our own accommodation. And for the last year or so, it's been sort of 50-50-ish in terms of numbers. Then this quarter, it's suddenly gone 3/4 in our own accommodation, which is obviously great. But that's not a big change. Have we bought more?
Yeah, so we have bought more properties, and we're continuing to buy more property. And we're really working hard to reduce those numbers going into bread and breakfast, because we realise, first of all, it doesn't look very good on our statistics, and it's not the right place to be placing our vulnerable people. We do have to use it often for people who are more difficult sometimes to place, But yeah, it's a proactive response and we're continuing to buy more. We've got 4 reserves now in Barnstable, which comes on the back of the monies that you all agreed to secure at £4 million. We're also looking at a couple in South Molton to make sure that it's not always Barnstable centric, particularly if we've got people who have suffered domestic abuse. So to try and take them away from those towns, but not necessarily out of the district. So yeah, it's all part of our strategy to reduce that.
And the other one was about on it's showing a sudden drop. You know, compare 4 to 1 this year is 46.5-ish, whereas last year it was 48.2-ish. It seems a big drop. Is it just, you know, coincidence of holidays and week endings or something?
I think I'd have to get a bit of advice on that, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
I'll go back to Mr. Kentell and just find out. Oh, actually, thinking about it, and John may be able to come in, we had our new baler installed. Is that what may have had that implication?
So yeah, also I need to get head of service to confirm, but I can also get the new baler coming, the downtime with the new baler coming in, so some of the material then obviously went off-site to be processed whilst that was being implemented, so that would have had an impact on Q1 figures. Obviously our Q2 figures, well obviously now with the fully operational baler, we'll hopefully see that recover back to the level that we're anticipating.
When off-site to be processed, does that mean it doesn't count towards our recycling numbers?
Yeah, some of it won't have been processed with the ability to select. And it wouldn't have gone through, sorry, it's not just the sale, but it's the going through the waste data flow data. So it wouldn't have been able to be incorporated within the Devon County statistics.
Okay.
So it may have still actually been recycled, but not necessarily counted in our figures.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Trinos. I mean, it's an impressive list of things that we've been getting on with. On the customer focus, I understand that there's new processes in place that allow us to look at root cause of repeat complaints. I think particularly in terms of bin collections and things. Have we got any data from that yet in terms of root causes, or is that
Yeah,
that's just starting?
So the customer focus team are now really analysing that. Sarah's not with us today. Ms. Higgins is normally here. So I think if there are particular questions you'd like to raise, we'll be able to interrogate that data and give you questions back. And it's like with all the performance data, we'd love to hear those metrics that you'd like to see incorporated within these reports. So if there's something that's of real interest,
Yeah.
please do set it out maybe through Bev, and we can make sure that that's incorporated in the reports.
Yeah, okay. Because missed bin collections obviously is the thing that we get to hear about all the time, and it's
They've significantly reduced, I think, because
yeah.
what they're managing to do now with that reporting, it cuts out a lot of those reports which aren't. So if sometimes people report it because the lorry's an hour late and they normally come at 7 and it has actually come at 8. So there's a window in which they can't report. There's duplications of reports that can't go through as well. So it does now define more actual results that come in. So it gives a truer picture. And I think coupled with that, the rounds, we had quite a lot of rounds disruption last summer, whereas this year those changes have been quite minor, and it hasn't created that disruption and that chaos that we've had to come about. So I think there's a much steadier business model now in terms of those changing and that reporting, but we can make sure that comes through, absolutely.
Right, thanks.
Councillor Caroline Lever.
Yeah.
Put her hand up after Councillor Peter Lever.
Okay, thank you. I just actually wanted to reflect back on some of the really good work which is taking place to really make note of it. So last Saturday, I think it was, gosh, time goes by, I'm a bit lost. There was a fantastic exhibition down at the museum of the Northern Devon Innovates programme, and there were some great companies there. If you haven't been down to see it yet, do go down, go and have a look. And it really struck me that it was a really good example of how the council works together in partnership with the museum and those businesses that are there generating income, good proper jobs, decent, skilled jobs, actually really contributing to our local economy. That there were some of those which, it's probably just my ignorance, but I didn't know they existed. And it struck me as a sort of story where we can really shout about this is what's going on up here, this is great up here. And I think the perception perhaps elsewhere in the county is that it's just fields and ice cream. And there's an awful lot more to North Devon than that. So I would absolutely support everything that we can do to sort of shout about what's great about up here. And I also wanted to particularly thank SJ and your team for the work that you've done in actually taking that work forward and the partnership work with the museum. We are blessed. We are absolutely blessed with that.
Any other comments? Ricky, no, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Well, it's back to customer focus on page 21. But here's the naive question, please. Bullet point 3. What is VDI and what is this new solution? I'm in the dark.
VDI is a virtual desktop infrastructure. It's the element that allowed us to work from home. So it was implemented just before COVID in 2020, which enabled us to all exit and have our iPads and our laptops. But infrastructure is being updated now. So it'll just making sure that we're keeping on top of that cyber security and just still giving us the ability to be more flexible in our work.
Is that just for officers? Yeah, not.
You're all on virtual desktops. In fact,
Now I know. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Nina. John, is this you?
Then pass over to Mr. Rumble. And that's managing. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. I'm here to present the Quarter 2 Financial Management Report. The recommendations are detailed in your report in 2.1 to 2.5 on page 69. Firstly, I'd like to talk through our revenue position. The revenue budget for 25-26 was approved at full council on 26th of February 25 at just over £18 million. The forecast budget surplus as at quarter 2 is £118,000. The variances making up this small surplus are shown in Appendix A on page 79. The original budget for 25-26 was budgeted to achieve £250,000 worth of vacancy savings. The current position forecast will achieve £106,000 based on known vacancies to date. And due to future unknown vacancies, it's still anticipated £250,000 saving will be achieved by the end of the financial year. However, at this stage, there is still a small risk to this. Rather than this being a target to aspire to, it's an estimated natural savings that we achieve due to the time it takes to recruit to vacant posts. The national pay award for 25-26 has been agreed. The pay award exceeded the budgeted 3% included in the original budget by 0.2%. We have funded the additional 40,000 shortfall from the budget management reserve. The estimated 25-26 year-end balance on this reserve is now just over 529,000. Planning fees are performing above budgeted levels for quarter 2, and we're estimating additional income to be favourable by 150,000. Volumes and larger applications continue to be up on the 24-25 levels. Pannier market income is down by £65,000. Officers have been reviewing the events income element and are still hopeful that quarter 3 and quarter 4 will see a partial recovery. Pay and display income is forecast to be down by £120,000 this year. This equates to around about 2.5% of the overall budget. This deficit is partly offset by additional £28,000 from season tickets. The sighting sales are still currently down by around £41,000. The new bailiff commodity prices are still filtering through, and we'll revise this figure further in the quarter 3 report. The uncommitted element of the collection fund reserve is around £550,000, and this gives us some protection against future volatility. External borrowing at the end of September was £12 million. Since the report was written, we've now taken on an extra £3 million.
Very much.
And moving on to the capital section, the 25-26 capital programme is attached to Appendix D, pages 87 to 90.
Current capital programme 25-26 stands at just under £19.8 million. We're proposing overall variations of just under -3 million to the 25-26 capital programme. There is one new capital scheme that was scored high by the PAG team, and this was reviewed by the senior management team and recommended for inclusion and approval in the Q2 report. There are also some slippages to later years and some full council approvals, including the additional £4 million for the provision of temporary accommodation. All these details can be found in 4.4.3 of your report on pages 71 to 74. These changes take the revised capital programme to just over 26.3 million. The funding of this programme consists of 13.5 million potential borrowing, combination of internal and external, £11 million of external grants, and £1.8 million of earmarked reserves. The actual spend on the capital programme at the end of Q2 was just under 4 million. Release of funds for this quarter can be seen in 4.4.8 of your report, and then we have the normal treasury management, debt management, and general debtors details in sections 4.5 to 4.7. Members, that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Can I just take you back to page 70? You mentioned about the Pannier Market and car parking. It doesn't actually explain why that has come about due to drop in income. Do you have reasons why?
Yeah, I can pick that up. So in terms of car park income, last year we saw a drop in car park income about 7% on the budget, 24-25. Some of that would have been attributable to the works that were taking place in the town centre for the central car park. So that would have had some impact on volume last year. That drop has actually improved in terms of 25-26. So obviously we did build some volume reduction into the 25-26 budget. Obviously the price did go up as well, as members will recall. But that drop last year was 7% on the budget. We're now only down at 2% drop. So there is a variance to the budget, but it is a much smaller variance than it was this time last year. As Tony alluded to, some of that has recovered in terms of increase in permits. So people have moved across from paying display to permit income. So there has been a 30,000 increase in terms of permits. So there is a net 90,000 reduction on the budget, but it is a relatively small percentage on the £3.9 million budget that we set for the year. So there will always be some volatility, but I'm pleased to say that it is actually a lot lower than last year's volatility in 24-25. In terms of Pannier Market income, when the capital works took place, we did build in additional growth into the budget. Sadly, there has been a reduction in general Pannier Market income in terms of store income. So the Pannier Market team are working hard in terms of putting together a business plan for trying to recover some of that income and grow the income in terms of the events that take place in the Pannier Market. That will be looked at by Scrutiny and Policy Development Committee. That was picked up at a previous meeting. So that committee will be taking a look at a working group looking at how we can generate additional business through the Pannier Market. When the business plan was originally put forward, we built in the extra income into the budget, but sadly that hasn't been forthcoming just yet, but we hope that will recover and we will get some income through additional events through that business plan when members see sight of that.
It just concerns me a little bit because Pannier Market income down by 65,000. And yet it's not a massive amount that the stores get charged. And I think, certainly in recent weeks, I've been noticing an uptick really in the Pannier Market as far as activity. And so I was surprised to see that the income's gone down. Where would we see the actual breakdown of all finances for the Pannier Market?
So that's it. Obviously, this is obviously giving you the headline information. So sat beneath this, obviously, are the income figures that you get for each of the day's Pannier Market trading. So obviously, the working group are going to be taking a look at that through Scrutiny and Policy Development Committee. So part of that will come through, obviously, that process. You'll be able to see more detailed budgetary information, levels of income, previous year's level of income, but also, more importantly, the business plan that will then sit behind that about all the ideas and the new events that we hope then will come forwards, which will then see some growth coming forwards.
Thank you.
So, Jane, I don't know if you want to just come in.
Clarify a point, because I think it's just distinguished between, this isn't a drop in income of 65,000. This is that when we wrote the business plan, we were expecting income to increase. So it's against the projected income rather than a reduction in income year on year. Just to make that point clear.
Yeah, there's a combination. So the majority of the forecast lower income is due to additional growth that was foreseen when we originally did the capital works. So again, that's new income coming through that hasn't actually come to fruition yet. There has been a small decline in general income, but the majority of it is to do with the new income that was forecast when we originally did the capital works.
Right, so our actual budget forecast is down rather than actual physical income.
As in physical income. So the
That-
general.
That implied in there.
Yeah, so the majority of forecast figure that's showing of a deficit is the additional income we built into the budget, anticipating a lot more growth and a lot more events coming forwards. That takes time to build up. We built that in quite early into the budget. In hindsight, we probably should have been a bit more realistic and done that over a much longer period of time. So it was that forecast of additional new income that we were anticipating coming in through the door.
Any other?
So on the penny market, I think it's important if scrutiny are going to look at the penny market, they actually look to the use, the volume of use and the footfall, because the footfall is miles higher than it used to be.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about it. Everybody walks through the market now. People go in there to use the loo. So I think I think the revenue side is important, but it's also a facility that the town centre generally is flourishing because of. So I think we need to look at it in the round, and I hope policy and, you know, when they do their scrutiny of.
When is that? When's it going to?
The scoping document, I think, is coming to your next scrutiny and policy development committee in November. And then obviously the working group will then take place following that meeting.
Good. Yeah, Councillor Milton.
Thank you. No, just a bit of a query around the car parking bit. That's the headline figures of income and so on. But do you have any the figures around the car park use, the numbers of people using the car parks? Is that declining or increasing? Only it seems there's a kind of antagonism there between our net zero agenda on one hand, and the use of increased public transport, and the car parking income to some extent. So just a bit of more explanation, please, John.
Yes, I mean, sitting behind that, obviously we have got a lot of data in terms of every car park utilisation figures, etc. So the working group that looked at car parking last year before we then made decisions about the charges obviously looked at a lot of that data before making decisions about charges for 25-26. So that can be provided if members want to see a lot more detail.
I was thinking more on the headlines.
Yeah, in terms of general overview, volume is up in terms of 25-26 performance compared to last year. Some of that will obviously be attributable to the works that were taking place in the town centre, but not all of it. So last year, as I alluded to, we were about 7% down on budget. This year, we're about 2% down. So that's taking into account the price increase as well. So actually, that shows an improvement in terms of volume coming through in terms of users of the car park. So general usage of car parks and ticket numbers is up compared to where we were in previous years.
Councillor Milton, you want to come back on that?
No, that was fine. It was only just I'm trying to link the car parking stuff to the rest of our sort of corporate plan of policy there around the net zero stuff. And trying to look out in our own car park and think there's more and more cars out there than ever before. So where do the two link up?
It's all part of our revenue budget. We collapse without the car parking.
No, exactly. That's probably the rather interesting bit, isn't it? But interesting to hear that actually volumes are gradually increasing. That was the figure I was looking for, really.
I think Joe also, because we had a lot of comments from people about why don't you reduce car park charges or actually make the car parks free, but it's about controlling the volume of people coming into the town centre. If we made them all free, then actually the car parks would get full up by people who maybe are working or living in the town centre, and then you wouldn't have the visitors and the economy going into town centre to spend money. So it is finding that balance, but obviously it's pleasing to see that our volumes are increasing compared to where we were previous years.
Good. Any other questions? Yeah, I thank the officers for that report. Then we're on to item 9. There, I don't want to be back. Sorry.
We move on as a recommendation.
Yes, recommendation on page 69. Proposal recommendations, please.
Yeah.
Councillor Reaver, seconded by Councillor Petrinos. Can we all vote in favour of those? Any against? Okay, sorry about that. Item 9, Adam.
Thanks, Chair. This is the mid-year Treasury report, a chance for members to review our original Treasury strategy and consider our current Treasury. Plus, the capital programme has increased by circa 2.5 million this financial year. That's been more than offset by the additional capital grants and reserve contributions. As a result, the underlying need to borrow has been largely unchanged, meaning that our borrowing strategy remains as originally agreed, with forecast borrowing of up to 22 million by the end of the financial year. At the time of writing the report, external borrowing, excluding finances leases, stood at 12 million. As Tony mentioned, during October, we took out a further 2 million from the BWLB, so external borrowing now stands at 14 million. It's projected that further 8 million might be required by the end of the financial year, but as always, that depends on any slippages to the capital programme and any changes in our cash flow position. In terms of our investment portfolio, we earned 189,000 in interest during the half-year period, an average rate of 4%, compared to our 7-day benchmark rate of 4.2%. I would like to refer members to the recommendation in section 2.1 of the report to approve the potential indicators as set out in the report and to note the Treasury activity. I could take any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Ricky now?
I do have a question, Chair, thank you. Page 94. The environmental enhancement, a revised estimate in hundreds of thousands. That seems like a massive increase from the current position. I just wanted to know to what extent that was due to the baler, or whether was it an aspiration for the things?
Yes, in a term, I suppose that table reflects the capital programme that was agreed in your previous item. So when Tony takes the financial report,
Yeah.
capital programmes, that really feeds through into these figures. I believe, I'll probably correct me, I think the baler is already included as a spend.
Yes, the majority of that spend took place in the last financial year. So obviously this is taking into account the predicted spend in the environmental enhancement team for 25-26, whereas all of the infrastructure and baler costs happened in the last financial year. So your spend of, anticipated, I think it's 75 or 76,000 in this year purely just relates to section 1 of the projects that are taking place. So nothing to do with the baler at all, because that's all taking place in the last financial year.
It's the same with place and regeneration. It's a very large additional from
Yeah.
the.
So in your previous agenda item, there's an appendix which sets out the capital programme that
Yeah.
will list the schemes. Tony could probably mention which appendix number it is, but it is there within your agenda pack.
Yes, I should have asked that the other day.
It's in, just for members' information, in the previous item 8, it's appendix D, that gives you all the capital programme. And the movements in terms of whether there were slippages to and from financial years, that will be in the body of the report as well. But the individual schemes are listed in appendix D, which starts on page 87.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Crabbe?
I appreciate we've got a basket of debt here, but I think you're very, very bright. You probably get briefed on all this sort of stuff, don't you? So what's the money on for long-term borrowing then? Is there an upward trend, a downward trend, or is it literally throw a dart at a dartboard, or what do you think?
I suppose at the moment the markets are
Mr.
kind
Reeves.
of kind of waiting on the sort of government's budget in November, so the market rates are at the moment. And again on appendix 9 on page 105, you will see the projected rates for bank rate.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
And the 50-year borrowing. So you can see at the moment it's saying that 50-year borrowing is currently around 5.6, 5.8, and they do see that going down to 5 over the long term. But again, short term is where they see the movement. So our borrowing will tend to be around the 1 to 2 years. Try and take advantage of the fact that the rates will come down. And then we'll try and fix it in for a longer period when that happens. So that's if you like our borrowing strategy at the moment.
Thank you.
Any other questions? This is the real recommendations, please, in 2.1, 2.2.
Moved.
You can still be seconded by Councillor Lever. All those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you. Thank you very much, Adam. Item 10, Taryn.
Again, members. Okay, this coming back again with this ecology strategy. Remember that you approved the consultation, announced consultation. Some very interesting responses back to scrutiny policy and development, who challenged me on some of the stuff, and we went through that quite in some detail. There were some minor revisions after the consultation. Interesting, lots of the comments were diametrically opposed to things in there. People wanted to go a lot further and people wanted to do nothing. So we ended up with a bit like a fait accompli. In terms of the strategy itself, it's moving forward. So those things will be weaved into our programs in terms of we do that. And also, when the strategy is adopted, you remember so that to do adopt it, that the other bodies will have to have reference to it when they make their decisions. That includes the county when they're looking about the highways infrastructure and things like that. Have to have regard into our strategy, and we'll push that forward. And also with the Director of Public Health in some of the programs that they come out with in terms of there. In terms of recommendations, it's purely to adopt the strategy as it stands from that point of view. So it's really quite simple in terms of that. So, members, got any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Darren. Questions, comments? Councillor Lever.
Yes, thank you very much for that. There's a couple of comments and a couple of questions. On page 116, the transport theme, it talks about the fact that we were consultees on the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan. It maybe isn't a place for this within this report, but it would be useful to know how much of the plan has been delivered or is due for delivery, because I know a lot of it is probably being done through section 106 agreements on planning applications, which of course we've got control over. And I know there's one or two things such as the Tarka Trail, which would be delivered through the county council, but I think a lot of the sort of quite small scale stuff will be done through section 106. So it'd be helpful to know about that. My other question was on the gaseous ammonia stuff on agriculture. There's a couple of things there on page 121, and I just do not understand this, and Councillor Milton may be able to enlighten me as much as anybody else. But there's monthly measurements of gaseous ammonia emissions going from December 23 through to September 24. Those variations, are they just sort of seasonal variations rather than indications of a trend, because there's a bit of a trend upwards?
Yeah, so if I could just come back on those points particularly. So the first one, as part of our annual strategy report, we have to submit to DEFRA every year. It is published. We drill down on the successes of things like those things we're going through. So we will then analyse that. So we'll look how much money's been spent on section 106 on that progress of those. So that they will come out in that reports annually. So we keep a monitor on those. And in terms of the gaseous ammonia, yes, it is seasonal.
Yeah,
but it's also a very slight upward trend. The reason being is to do with purely mostly agricultural emissions, and there's a lot of work in Dutch stuff in terms of that, about how they effectively get that good stuff into the ground and it not getting wasted. And it's those sort of things that DEFRA we support in pushing those forward, because it's good for the farmers. They're not wasting valuable, expensive fertilizers are at the moment in terms of that sort of thing and affecting that. And it's a more effective use of it. So, but what we have also done is we've started our own monitoring. So we've now got 4 diffusion tubes, which are an annual monitor, so we can get a wider picture across, because we've only got the one monitoring site that's run by a national site in Broughton Barrows. So therefore, it's not really, it's a bit of a litmus test in terms of just roughly what's going on. Some of that will be transboundary, so it comes from Europe and other countries. So there are lots of factors that affect those figures, but we should keep an eye on that. But there is a very slight upward trend, but there's no direct correlation between that and anything that's happened here, like in terms of that. And it does seem to peak in June. June seems to be last year we had one exceedance, I think, of the 1% in June, and it looks like the previous June it was the same. So there's a seasonal thing around about that for the year.
Okay, all right. I mean, and we're still offering free pre-application advice to farmers on covering slurry pits and enlarging slurry pits and things.
Yeah, so from our own team, this question was raised between policy and development is we support those applications. So the environmental health team gets consulted on those, and we put forward support to make sure that those do go through the planning process without too much challenge.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Carroll, leave it and Councillor Musk.
Thank you. I just wanted to come back on the pre-app, waiving of the pre-app fees on the covered lagoons, slurry lagoons. Just wanted to again reflect back. It's another opportunity for us, and I have been doing this to tell others around the county about some really good work that we're doing that's come out of the work of councillors. Really looking at in detail at some of the difficulties that the farming community have been dealing with and so on and so forth, and that the response that came out of the work of councillors has hopefully been useful within the farming community. I was at a water summit down in South Hams where I was able to talk about this is the approach that North Devon Council has taken. Hey guys, why don't you take this on board? So I suppose a question is, are there conversations that take place between this planning authority and other planning authorities in the county about how to do things well and to learn from us?
Yeah, so I'm not a planner. I don't know people. What I can do is I'll speak to on those and find out what she does. I'm very sure there will be county planning. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, obviously not just for planning, but with every service area, the senior officers will meet with their counterparts quite regularly. So similar in finance, similar in other areas. So they will share good practice, things that teams are working on, things that each council are doing, like North Devon. So that will get fed through to other senior officers at other organisations and hopefully fed up through the chain so that they may take on some of the good work that we're doing. Likewise, we'll pick up on good work that's being done by other authorities as well. So it's complementary.
I was really pleased to be able to take this particular one to the South Hams to tell them about, look what we're doing.
Yeah,
it's great.
Councillor Muskell.
Yeah, I suppose I was a little bit concerned that, farmers do seem to be under attack from every angle, and not just by us, but by government, I don't it's good to hear that we are offering support. I wouldn't want them to see this as another sort of attack on their way of life, on their ability to earn money at a time when they are under so much financial pressure. It would be good to hear that we are offering support to mitigate that. But Robin, as a farmer, does this sit well with you?
I was keeping quiet until I'd heard the debate.
We'll come back, Councillor, to you at the end. But I understand what you're saying about the government, but I don't think it's fair to say that we as a council are attacking farmers.
No, I didn't say that. I said that farmers are under attack nationally, and I don't want us to be adding to that. That was more what I
I could, Chair, just say that I think that was one of the comments we come around the consultation of the fact that we were quite vague on that, and the fact that we're just offering support. That's all we're going to be doing in terms of this strategy and monitoring to see what's going on. When there is good advice that comes out from other countries that are a good farming practice that we can promote or use it through our method, say, do you know about this or organise that? That's what we're talking about in this strategy. So we're not talking about actually physically doing anything like that. It's just making sure the support's there and the networks are there. I'm sure the farmers have got their own support networks, but if we're aware of any conferences or anything like that to talk about things that ultimately will save money and improve the environment, that we promote that.
Councillor Crabb, did you want to?
Yeah, but very very quickly, just to, just so I sort of put some perspective on it, really, the measurements here, I mean, to be fair, I appreciate what you're doing, and I think the approach that you just mentioned is a good one and is a sensible one. But in terms, if councillors are about to leave this meeting extremely worried about the levels of ammonia in the atmosphere, don't forget that the long-term exposure limit is 25 in that measurement column. In extreme sensitive ecosystems, standards of ammonia are set much lower, and an annual mean of 3 micrograms, 3.0 is suggested, but that's an annual mean. And in extreme cases where lichens or bryophytes, which I'm sure you all know what they are particularly sensitive, and then the limit there, the average annual limit is suggested at 1. So the whole of North, wherever these measurements were taken, is fine to grow the most sensitive lichens and bryophytes anyway. So great that you're doing it. Carry on doing it. Don't beat farmers up. Just be nice to them. And when we leave here, don't panic too much. But I mean, just keep an eye, I guess, is what I'm saying. But don't stress. Don't stress so much.
Thank you, Councillor Travers. Councillor Ricky Mack, therapist.
I wasn't stressed, but I am now. Yeah. I don't want to truncate any discussions that might come after what I'm saying, but this report comes to us before, and it's gone to policy, and it's been well looked at. I've talked to Darren about Oxford's decision to rip it all up and start from scratch, but the parameters at Oxford are totally different than our own. I think the monitoring system we have, and going by government, top-down guidelines as to what's maximum, what's minimum, etc. I think we have to live with that, and I know Darren does for sure. I think there are very robust systems in place existing to monitor things. I take the concerns about theme 4 and agriculture definitely, but nonetheless, I'm very pleased with this report. I think it's excellent, and I am proposing recommendation. Please, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Mack. Councillor Robin Milton, do you want to?
Yeah, I will do. Yeah. Well, thanks for the comments and support on most of that in my area that I've obviously got a very specific interest in. I was actually going to say the same as Councillor Crabb, actually. You know, our figures are really good for North Devon comparative to an awful lot of people. I think we should be quite pleased with them. So it's kind of, we've got to keep on doing what we're doing, but recognise there's going to be a huge amount of seasonal variation. And a lot of that variation is not going to be anything to do with the specifics of what intentional activity, or it will be more intentional activity, but it will be market based. In reality, you're going to get more ammonia emissions at the time of year when people are spreading slurry. You're going to get more ammonia emissions if nitrogen fertilizer is slightly cheaper. And we've got to remember, you know, post-COVID, nitrogen fertilizer was extortionately expensive at £1,000 a tonne. It's now down to £350 a tonne. There's a slightly different incentive to use it now than there was then. There's a slightly different incentive because the value of some agricultural products are different. There may be a slightly different incentive for investment when you see at the moment that milk price for dairy farmers is dropping quite substantially at the moment. So rather than put their money into the types of investment that may actually reduce this, they may be postponing that investment for a year or two, particularly if we've got a government that's waiting for their handout for 20% of their assets. So in reality, it's not any single issue, but actually I'm quite relieved to see that we're monitoring, we're providing advice. And I think, you know, there's been several options within the North Devon Plus grants for farmers to take advice. And I think you've got to recognise we use that properly. And I've mentioned it. It's there. It's an integral part of what we do. And I would echo the comments before. Don't keep beating people up for it. Just try and provide the right advice at the right time. Just one thing that does come up, and that kind of an interesting scenario happens, that quite often we see now there are quite substantive capital grants for improvement of infrastructure, or have been. But quite often you find that to replace an existing set of infrastructure that previously wasn't subject to any of the nitrogen regulations for emissions, a new one will do. But in order But in trying to restrict it and the work that goes into the new one, we're actually counterproductive because we're getting people turning around and saying, "Don't bother though, I can use the old one, it's there and it's existing." So it's kind of how we marry those up, especially when we do planning application for substantive direction. Unfortunately, the one thing that's definite here, the more cheap food we want, more challenges we're going to have on the environment. Simple as that. Make your mind up. But other than that, yeah, I echo the report. You know, it's been seconded. I'm quite happy to do that. So.
Well, thank you, Councillor Milton, for that expert view. Councillor Peter Levy, you want to come back?
Yeah, just I didn't realise this would turn into a discussion about agriculture. I just wanted some clarification. That was all. I mean, what's clear from this is that the stuff that we as a council can do to keep emissions down and improve air quality is around the way that we plan for transport, the way we plan for waste management, the way that we support clean energy production, and those are the key things that I think, you know, we probably need to go away and think about in terms of the rest of the activities of the council. And of course, I mean, nobody's trying to beat farmers up. Everybody knows what a difficult time they, as well as some other sectors of the economy, are having at the moment.
I think I could just come out and just clarify members in, and it is something that perhaps picked up on. It's not only nitrogen, in terms of everything, we're really quite good. You know, North Devon is a really nice, clean place to come to. It's got its little blips and other areas, particularly around Braunton, where it's had a problem. But generally, we are half of the national limit. So we ought to be celebrating that and saying, you know, that, and we're moving downwards. You know, as vehicle technology and as you say, and those things come forward, and it's going in the right direction.
And it's one of the reasons why some of our most successful industries are actually based here in North Devon, is because we've got good clean air.
Good. Somebody's put forward recommendations. Councillor Vicky Knight, seconded by Councillor Maskell. All those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you. Thank you, Darren. Item 11. Donna's not here, is she? Yes, she is, Chair. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Darren.
Okay. The hot's back then.
I actually find this. Think about calling officers, not calling officers by the first days. I find it very difficult. I must admit, so I apologise. This is Sibley. I mean, is it Sibley? We were praised when we for our family oriented way we do things, and I think this is something we need to change. I think councillors, followed by councillor title, but I think I find it very difficult not to call officers sometimes first name, so I apologise if you take.
I am very happy to be Donna and not Mrs. Sibley.
Not most officers, I'll check an executive position there and we'll change, we'll have that chair.
I think he's going to introduce this one.
Councillor Knight, to you,
Sorry.
Sustainability and Climate Officer, I'd like to thank Donna for this update and report, and I will speak to it. And in the absence of Mark Kintel, perhaps you can field all the questions. Okay. This is the update on our carbon footprint, and we've seen this in several instances before. I suppose I'd like to, apart from the obvious recommendations, 2.1 and 2.2 are, if you like, no-brainers, and 2.3, let's make sure we do that. And I haven't proposed it yet, but nonetheless, because we need to keep talking about the way forward, the way we can address our footprint going forward to 2032, sorry, to 2032. To me, the important things are to be found on pages 129 to 132. Those are the important inputs, particularly 4.5 to 4.18. However, looking at page, I'm sorry, this is, I always like to look at a page, and it means you want to find it. Looking at the very first page, 128, 4.3 is an important additional comment to be made in terms of our embedded carbon footprint in purchases. Likewise, sorry, I didn't make you turn forward to 121, but 21. anyway, for 4.12, the existing council properties should be made as energy efficient as possible, a no-brainer again, and on-site renewable energy installed where appropriate. New additions to the council's estate should be EPC plus, effectively net zero in operation. That's the aspiration, that's our target, and it should inform every purchase, in my opinion, our opinion. Just comment on offsetting. The climate action team discussed this in our last meeting, and it's clear that it's extremely difficult for us to contemplate offsetting effectively, which is why we want to keep pushing for the equivalent of our woodland creation, which we're doing so successfully. Resource implications on that same page, 5.1, needs to be read out loud. The council will need to provide financial and staff resources to reduce its carbon emissions between now and 2030. Yeah. That's why I'm so interested in budget allocations, and that's why the next few months are going to be vitally important in terms of the my portfolio, if you like. There was, sorry. Okay, in many respects, it's depressing to find, to reiterate that we can't expect, because of not just green, the red diesel and Ilfracombe, but other problems we have with transport, etc., which are being addressed. And I'm very excited by what the aspirations are. If we're going to have renewable energy installation in Barnstable Bus Station, in the Barnstable Pannier Market, here at BEC and the Green Lanes Shopping Centre, those are ambitious targets, and they're going to absorb, hopefully, a lot of our budget considerations. Other than that, as I said at the beginning, I thoroughly recommend this report to my colleagues, and move the recommendations.
Councillor Ricky Knight, Councillor Crabb.
Very quickly, I'm sure this has been batted around 550 times, but the diesel Ilfracombe Harbour thing that's ongoing, could that be? Would it make the council happy if that was batted sideways? Would someone like Total or Butlers or someone like that take the whole shebang?
I think we actually did discuss this at length, Councillor Crabb, and if it's just to make our figures look good, I think we concluded that would be the wrong approach, because it's still that's still a problem, and it's still being sorted. Yeah, it would help us display figures, but if we're being honest, you know, it wouldn't actually do anything for the actual environment. That it would still. That's right, Councillor Vicky Knight.
Yeah, that was agreed last year at this meeting when we did the carbon footprint. The councillors were absolutely of opinion that we didn't want to be greenwashing or massaging our figures in any way.
That's very lovely.
And the other one, I mean, it said here some about the Scope 3 emissions are underreported. I mean, they're almost nationally. I mean, I've got to be in my bonnet about this, as many of you know, but now it irritates me immensely. And I think, and I don't know how we can improve things. And I mean, you probably tried, I suspect. But I mean, the first thing I'm looking at is an iPad that's made in China, and it's been made predominantly with coal-powered energy, and that's nil to you, I suspect, isn't it? You know, like, and there could be a factory somewhere in Swindon making iPads. There isn't clearly, but I mean, there could be a factory, but that will have shut down because of the cost of energy. But as long as we make them in China, it doesn't count. It's zero. And that irritates me phenomenally. It's one of the few things I agree with Councillor Knight on, that and keyboard playing, but there we go.
We export.
But I mean, is there a way of, I know you say it's difficult, can resource be put into guessing, or I know guessing the right word, but you know what I mean?
To do the Scope 3 emissions around our purchasing, it would be we'd have to put quite a lot of money to do it. And given that our budgets are very constrained, we sort of felt that it would be better to put it into actually, reducing carbon emissions by doing energy efficiency or solar PV or something, rather than just into improving the calculation. We did used to do a calculation that looked at what we bought in terms of our goods and services, but it was based on the amount of money we spent, so it fluctuated year to year just in terms of the amount of money that the council was spending, so it wasn't particularly useful in terms of, it gave us an idea of what the carbon impact of our goods and purchasing goods and services was, but it wasn't particularly useful in terms of the carbon targets, because if we spent more money as a council, for example, when we had a lot of spend on the Future High Street Fund project with the pannier market, you know, our emissions went up, but it wasn't really an accurate reflection of things. So I'd be very happy to have a chat with you about this outside the meeting, Councillor Crabb, because you know, there are things that we could do, but it's not, if it was a simple, quick calculation, we'd have been doing it.
Yeah. A very quick example that's come to me, actually just drove past as I mean, we're excited that we're buying electric vehicles, which predominantly, Buzz, do we use them? I know it's Chinese brand, and yet Dennis bin lorries are made in Peterborough, I think, or something, aren't they? So the amount of carbon in a Dennis bin lorry is probably very easy to find out, and Dennis will have done it very well, and we'll have it to 3 decimal places. You know, you ask whatever these Chinese companies are called, how much carbon's in their van, and they'll tell you to sod off. I suspect, you know, it's you know, so there's a choice. What I said is, if you've got I'm not saying there is a Chinese bin lorry, but if it was a Chinese bin lorry and a Dennis bin lorry, my recommendation would be buy the Dennis. You know, so decisions like that where you can track it that's what I'm saying. I'll stop. That's it. End of.
Just remind you, it is a public meeting, this still, Councillor Duff.
Yeah. But you know, it's true, isn't it?
Councillor Milton, I'll come back to John in a minute.
It was only, as much as anything else, there is a certain irony, isn't there, that the more activity that happens in North Devon, the more commercial business that we end up doing, the greater our carbon footprint will be. It is that simple. You're not going to increase commercial activity, and what I would hope is happening, and I think it's fairly evident, linking back to the car park activity, you know, our activity within town centres and everything are increasing because obviously more people are going there. It's as simple as that. We're buying properties to let and so on. That will increase our carbon footprint. So quite pleased to see that's recognised it within the report, and we've got to be realistic about that. There was a bit of irony actually that just now I had a message from Professor Dieter Helm with a critique of British energy policy that he's just written and submitted to government, which says British energy is not cheap, not homegrown, and definitely not secure. That's the start. So we've got quite a lot of challenges there. And I think most of it is around understanding what we're doing rather than coming to conclusions too quickly. And most of it is around the reporting.
Okay, thank you. John, did you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Just to come back on a couple of points there. Firstly, Councillor Crabb, obviously members will remember you approved the procurement strategy. So part of that procurement strategy does look at a number of factors around things like buying local, trying to support local economy. So it isn't just done on go for the cheapest that you can get. It takes into account all of those different factors, one being local procurement, one being around looking at carbon outputs from those local procurements as well. So there are a number of strands within that obviously this council adopts when they're going out buying services and goods. I think Councillor Milton's completely right. That's why we wanted to emphasise that in the report, was around balancing our core priorities, because obviously if we wanted just to hit this core priority, then we wouldn't be doing much in the town centre. In fact, we'd be withdrawing ourselves from town centres, doing the minimal amount of investment, not buying homes, not trying to support the housing economy. So there is that balance that obviously you members have difficult priorities to balance. And again, obviously you have one around financial security for the authority as well. So trying to bring all those together, it's about trying to, I think we touched on earlier, celebrating the good things we do, but recognising where we can make improvements. So buying housing and reducing energy efficiency within that housing, that carbon impact would have been there anyway alongside the council. So we're doing good things to try and make an impact, but obviously alongside recognising where we can reduce the carbon as much as we can.
Any other questions? Any points? Can I just quickly ask you, I mean, it's only going back to the diagram on page 129. It's only a small point. Well, it's not a small point, but it's electricity.
Yes.
Seems to have increased quite a lot since 2022, 2023, which was after COVID. Is that, it seems to be suggested in the report that that's down to taking on new buildings, which I wouldn't have thought would be that size, that numeric, but is there a reason why it seems to be going up, the use of electricity? And I thought that would be one thing that we could control much better.
Yeah, I think it's partly that electricity use has increased for the authority. But also when I do the calculation, there's a set of national figures that DEFRA provide, which are the greenhouse gas conversion factors. And for quite a long time, the electricity conversion factor was getting smaller and smaller as we were generating more renewable energy. And that reversed in the last couple of years, just to do with the mix of energy that was being used in the UK. And so the conversion factor increased slightly. So that's made things get bigger. So that's made the electricity get bigger.
Right.
So it's a bit of a mixture of the fact that our electricity use has increased, but also conversion factor increased as well.
Any comments? Councillor David Bennett?
Quick one. I think just overall, I mean, I was on the committee back along about 4 years ago when we looked at light bulbs and all sorts of things, and you can focus and, you know, splitting hairs on where iPads are made. I think looking at ourselves and just looking at the car park today, I think a very simple thing will be having a big push on car sharing. I mean, why have we got so many cars here? You know, can we not look at routes to work? Can we not create something where we can get 4 people or even 3 people in a car, or 2s? You know, if we got 2 in each of those cars, we'd only have half the number of cars, wouldn't we? So I think it's very.
It's something I raised actually when I first
along
on the council, and I was told it had been done before. Therefore,
I think maybe
it's not worth looking at again. But and you're not talking just about the council though. You're talking about trying to encourage something across the whole of North. And I know some authorities did do a lot of work on this and have been successful. I don't know whether if we could do another.
I'll have to talk to HR about it, but I'm very happy to do that.
Yeah. We don't have to pay for anything, and we might be a bit of work we have to do, but it's kind of the ethos of like, no, let's actually, I know so and so lives down the road. Let's have a, you know, I don't know, WhatsApp group or something that it makes it simple. Yeah, I'm going. Can you pick me up? You know, it's just that we've got so entrenched in our own car use.
I think, to be fair, staff are quite good at knowing who lives nearby and that they do share lifts. I mean, certainly when we're going on site visits and things, we're always sharing this, and even to and from work, it's just maybe not understanding. You know who lives near you, you don't know who doesn't. It's that bit that maybe we could do a little bit of work on. Yeah,
maybe something we could look at.
Yeah.
Again,
I was actually meaning as well, widen it out, because if you look at social media, when there's a breakdown on the link road, it is just how gridlocked Barnstaple in particular is. And surely we can do better. We can do better as residents as well as employees.
There's got 1 person in it.
Yeah. It's very easy to say these things, but we've got to come up with a plan if we're going to do a job.
Yeah, thank you. I think if we went through the authority, there are actually a number of cars out there that people are car sharing it. So there are actually a number of teams who do bring in 3 or 4 people from Bideford. So if they didn't, we'd need a lot more car parking space than we've got there currently. Certainly, there are busier days than others. If we go through the week, there are quieter days here at Brinsworthy. I think that coupled with we haven't forced people back into the office 5 days a week like some organisations have. So we've tried to embed that hybrid working so that people are in the office, but they're not in all the time. So again, that helps this information in terms of the amount of times and visits that people are making with their cars to the organisation. And as Donna alluded to, when they're going for site meetings or meetings that are in South Devon, etc., people are car sharing for those. So we are doing as much as we can. I think you're right, there can be more encouragement for that, pending when people's work patterns fit. But I think we are doing quite a lot already with car sharing through the organisation.
Yes, Andreas?
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with Councillor David Knight. I know that I came here today alone in my car, but that's because there was nobody who lives anywhere near me. But tomorrow,
Why is that? though? That's right.
pick me up on the way. But tomorrow I'm going to Dalberton to Exmoor National Park. And 3 of us share a car routinely to go there, which is, you know, just normal. And I'm sure lots of other people do exactly the same thing. Apart from it, it's cheaper, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, I mean, while we're on this, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with things like the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan is that alternatives to driving just are really important. I mean, we've got a meeting this week, which actually is down at Green Lanes, which everyone can get to on public transport or by walking. And there's an issue here that it's almost impossible to get here other than by driving.
I don't want to extend it. This discussion, it's great to have a discussion about this. We do it CAT often, and to bring it to SNR is very important for this portfolio. It's well, we have a bike shed out there which has got 7 bikes in it. You know, incremental steps. Is it like equivalent of changing light bulbs? I don't know. I just want to accentuate the positives. So I want us to be exemplars of good practice. The fact is, you know, when we built that car park over by Seven Brethren, we used all the rubbish from the leisure centre. That sort of thing, I think, is a powerful statement of our intent. Yeah, you could. I think I recommend all councils buy an electric car. That's a very good idea. You got to, yes, okay. You got to invest to make a profit eventually. So. Yeah, exemplars of good practice. We're trying so hard, incremental steps. And I just commend once again our officer, Donna, for all the hard work she does for both TDC and NDC in telling it like it is, really, warts and all. This is why it's not working here. This is what we can do. This is what we want. Yeah. Okay, so that's my comment. No questions there.
You Councillor Knight, Councillor Milton.
Yeah. Oh, it was just a comment on, was it 416 there? And the note that was there. Yeah, pleased to see that there's a recognition there that we won't be able to do it within ourselves, so we'll need to offset. I think just a word of caution, actually. Not pretty sure if we do offset, that we're not actually just exporting our responsibility. Because it's really easy to think, somebody's planted a few trees, that's fine, we're all right now. It's not. You're still producing the same carbon as you were before. You really haven't achieved anything, and that's particularly the case for some of the woodland and some of the open peak creation, especially when you hear at the moment, I think Lincolnshire at the moment is highly likely to see a big chunk of trees cut down because there's been approval for a solar farm, which seems to be a bit of a misnomer to me. You're kind of working where the progress is, but I'm just really pleased to see that was in there. But just to highlight, please recognise that those problems don't go away just because you bought some offsetting or maybe something.
It was going to be good discussion about offsetting a development.
Offsetting is a horribly complex thing. It's been an easy route out. I'll just say one other thing as well, really, regarding the transport bit. I probably come as far as anybody to get here every time, and there's one particular sign on the link road that says to me every time I go past, go green, take the bus. And I think, yes, but they can only hold meetings in North Devon Council that I can attend between 11 and 1 on a Thursday. That's the only time I can get here.
Well, you've got that option up there, look, you know.
Yeah, which is why I do that option quite often. So, but that was all. Thank you.
Chair, I'm using a bit of license here, but really, this process is not just us looking inward, isn't it? We should be looking outward. And we used to, and John knows what, probably guess what I'm going to talk about. Communities can help themselves, and we need to help them more. We used to have environmental grant scheme where we help communities, some village halls, some people planted woodland, some, you know, and we spent it all. It's not in the budget anymore. And I just wonder whether today we could ask if we could look at finding a bit of reserve somewhere to top up that scheme again, because parishes and communities do it for themselves with a little bit of encouragement, and it pulled in huge amounts of money from private sector and from parishes and from individuals as well. I wonder if we could look at bringing that environmental grant scheme back again.
We redirected some of the money that used to go into the parish grant scheme that went into the climate and environmental grant scheme. So there was uptake for the first couple of years. There is still a residual balance in the reserve, about 20,000. So again, there we ran.
It's not open at the moment.
It's not open at the moment, so there is opportunity there for members to open it again with that £20,000 if you want to. So again, that's something we can look to bring.
Good idea. Can we formulate that up into December?
With the same conditions as before, John.
We can bring forward a report that's set the scheme up with the same conditions as before.
Reserve doing nothing at the moment, so we're not going to be here in 2 years. We'll have to get away.
Members want to show we can bring something to December's committee.
Councillor Price, do you want to put that into a recommendation? That's brought that proposal brought it.
Necessary, was it?
Yeah, seconded by Councillor Lever. All those in favour of that particular avenue, thank you. Councillor Price. We move to the general recommendations now. Councillor Petrino's proposed the recommendation.
Sorry.
What's in a name? I proposed it.
Proposed, seconded. All those in favour of the recommendations, thank you. Item 12, thank you, Donna.
Chairman, I just realised I should have declared another disclosable interest because I'm a member of Next National Park.
Yeah, and so should I.
So you want to declare an interest then?
Yes, I'll go declare one.
Should we leave the meeting as a consequence?
Should they leave the meeting, Simon?
The recommendations for this one are endorse the next one.
To endorse.
Let's just say they leave the meeting, shall we?
Well,
Come back.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, I would thought, yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, so, yeah, I mean, given this is an
knows what it's about.
I mean, it is worth declaring, but given the context, I think it would be fine to remain, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, item 12, Sarah Jane.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, members have got the report in front of them, starting on page 139, and it, as we've just discussed, to endorse the Exmoor National Park Management Plan. Exmoor adopted this management plan in July 25. Officers of the council and some of our members, as we've been hearing, have been involved in the process. It's worth noting the reason for the recommendation, in that the Lebanon Nutting Regeneration Act in 2023 introduced a new duty on local authorities to further the purposes of national parks when making decisions or carrying out activities relating to or affecting land within the national park, including helping to develop and deliver the national park management plan. So in endorsing this, members just need to be mindful that this is what we are doing, that in if there are decisions that we are making that are impacting on Exmoor National Park and indeed its setting, that we must be mindful of that legal duty that we have. The report is attended in full, and I'm sure members have had a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah Jane. Any comments? Questions?
Chair, can I mean, obviously, part of my ward is in Exmoor National Park, and I completely support some of the objectives here. One thing that's always worried me, and John knows much more than me, and I don't suppose it's this plan so much as the local plan that really affects it, and that's the robustness and the vitality of the economy of Linton and Minland, that relies very much at the moment completely, as John I think made a point the other night, on tourism. And I'm anxious that we flag up how we need more diversity in that community, to actually have other drivers that help the people in terms of skills levels and wage levels and everything else. And so I think we think of it as it's sort of being left in aspect of being a fantastic place. It is, but it'll wither unless it changes and grows a bit. So making sure that this plan recognises the importance on our side of the more, to the economy of the villages around as well. So just wanted to make that point, Chair.
Yeah, can I just follow up on that? Yeah, I mean, what Councillor Howe says is entirely true, but he talks about the danger of withering, but this is already withering as partially through loss of population because of second homes and Airbnbs, which means that the number of people in the local school is decreasing, and local employment outside of the hospitality sector is scarce and hard to find. And the difficulty then, of course, is that it's not as if there are employment sites that can be developed, because there aren't any unless you go and build something with the Rat Valley Rocks, which is kind of difficult. Sorry, that is it's a bit off tangent, really, but yeah, it's entirely true.
Sorry, Chair, about this, but I mean, many years ago, we did look at building a more of a hub at Blackmore Gate, and all the conflicts that brought up at the time, because we got Bridgman or Mole Valley there now, we've got the market there already. There used to be a hotel, there used to be a filling station. It's a crossroads where people stop before they go to Linton or decide to go on to the other bits of the coast. And it's, partly or 2/3 of it's in the national park. And so therefore, there were always conflicts on that. And if that is an option, then I think that's something that from an economic point of view, we should think about, because it's less of a problem up there than it would be to expand Linton and Lynmouth into the countryside around it. But I don't know, am I completely off? I don't know. So Jen, do you want
I think it's worth, so the economic development team here do work closely with, there is an economic development officer at Exmoor, and they work closely together. This is certainly something that we can take forward with them and discuss. And similarly, the economic strategy talks about the kind of bedrock sector of tourism and diversifying. So again, it's a conversation that the team can have with Exmoor directly. And in that regard, it is acknowledging that duty and having those conversations and furthering them.
Councillor Lever, no, Councillor Milton.
Yeah, I think, it's good to see in the plan, I think it's page 175, that the national park recognises the need for housing, for affordable housing, the housing that communities need. But I mean, you're right, Councillor Petrinos, it's difficult to find those sites to put them. But I think we've got to remember that we're very lucky in North Devon in that we've got we've got two of the country's designated and protected landscapes in the national park and the national landscape, and that those are rare resources and diminishing resources in the country. And I think we and the national park clearly have got a duty to protect and enhance them. And it is a very difficult juggling act. But I don't think you can apply the same sort of criteria to development in those protected landscapes that you do elsewhere in the district.
So, Councillor Milton, what's going?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind in some ways that what we're looking at here is ensuring that we endorse the National Park Management Plan. And the management plan is a very different beast than our planning policy. And once we do the local plan for Exmoor, what I'd like to ensure to just be noted today to remind us that North Devon Council needs to ensure that it contributes appropriately to the local plan for Exmoor as that one's revised. Because ensuring the two link up and it's not a hard boundary stuck up the road to Blackmore Gate is absolutely vital, quite honestly. Because otherwise, all that you effectively are doing is moving, to some extent, you're sticking activity just outside the national park and trying to observe what's in there. And that does no real good at all in many ways. To some extent, Exmoor as a national park is only there in the way it's there because of external investment in the past. So what you want to do is ensure that external investment continues in the future. And what you're asking for really is to endorse what is effectively a legal duty on us now, is that we have to ensure that we look at that one part of that recommendation where we foster that economic duty. And that duty is on us when we make decisions regarding the rest of our policies.
Are you suggesting we put an additional recommendation in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got 2.1 to endorse it, and you're saying, and
And to please to ensure that we make appropriate input into the Exmoor National Park local plan, because that's likely to be due for development then.
Sarah Jane?
We will have a duty to cooperate
Yeah.
with the national park, so that's in place anyway.
It's in place. It's just nice to make sure it's here as well, so that we see the link the two things. It's not just one or the other.
I think picking up on that one, we automatically send no comment back on planning applications.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should be doing that anymore.
No.
I think our planners should actually look at the applications in that section of our North Devon and have a view on them. Because I think they have a different view perhaps than the national. So I just think we need to, that's another issue. But I mean, I really do think, we tend to just say, well, let the national park get on with it. People are going to live in the national, and I pick up what Peter Levers said. But if it wasn't for just outside the national park at Port Farm, it wasn't for A and B contractors and Mole Valley Bridgmans that was Exmoor Plumbing and Heating that are in there. They employ people that all live in the park. And we've had a right old battle over the years with the planners over some of those developing businesses. But if they're not there, where else can they be? They're just outside the national park. There was a hotel and a filling station the other side of Blackmore Gate. So I just think we need to have a proper open debate about how we can. Bratton Fleming and North Morton are supposed to be the places taking the housing pressure off of Exmoor. That doesn't help Linton and Lynmouth because it's, is it 11 miles, 12 miles from Bratton to Linton? It just doesn't make sense. North Morton's a really torturous drive. So anyway, I'll shut up. But I just think we need to be more active in thinking about the economy of the bit of our district that's in the national park.
So we've got a recommendation, we've got recommendation 2.1, and Councillor Milton is proposing, just say it again, Councillor Milton.
Yeah, to ensure that we provide the appropriate responses when the local plan is developed.
Does anybody want to speak against that? So can we take those recommendations 2.1, which and now which is going to be 2.2 presumably together?
Yes.
And vote, do we propose those recommendations, two recommendations now? Councillor Maskell, seconded by Councillor Milton. And can we take those two together? All those in favour? Anybody against? Yeah, thank you, Councillor Milton. Should have asked for any further questions, but we've passed it now to our recommendations. We'll move on to, thank you, Sarah Jane, item 13, which is the work plan. John, do you want to say anything, or is there anybody who wants to put anything on the work plan?
To add that one item, Chair, to your December item for the climate and environmental grant scheme. If you're happy, we'll add that on to the December.
Yeah, thank you.
And the work plan just sets out those items that you previously discussed that were coming forwards. So there's no changes proposed to that, and that they feel is missing on there.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, a request really. I'm getting a lot of communications at the moment from various factors regarding the replacement of the Shannon lifeboat at Ilfracombe lifeboat station with an Atlantic rib. Some of them are founded, some of them are unfounded, the comments that are coming through. My request is to really clarify the situation and have a policy more or less ourselves, that we invite the RNLI to the December meeting so that we can actually ask them their questions. I mean, there are concerns about the Shannon going to Appledore, for instance, and whether it'll be suitable at all tide times, etc., etc., etc. But we don't know unless we ask the question, and I would like to request that the RNLI attend so that we can ask them and get our own facts.
it would be good to understand the rationale behind their decision-making process, whether right or wrong, and give opportunity to members to ask questions. Is that possible? Can we invite them to a
Could you
future
find out to
meeting?
see if they're available for the December meeting, Chair, and then
If not December, if we can invite them in January.
what's the timeline for the decision, Malcolm?
I don't think
The
it's a
decision's
time
already been
limit.
made, hasn't it?
If I'm quite honest,
Yeah.
the cynic would say the decision's already been made, but I think we just need to ask.
That's fine, so we can put the request out and to come to the
I
December.
mean,
meeting.
I'm dual hatting you because I'm wearing my chair of the harbour.
Yeah.
Harbour board as well, so, and so you're dual hatting as well.
We'll ask them, and if we can't make December, we'll ask them for January.
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments or changes or to the plan? No, okay, well, thank you everybody for attending, and thank you officers as well.